fellow Crusaders, and welcome to our Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning review. My name is Sean Waskrick. With me, as always, is Brian Michaels. It is the supposed final mission for the Mission Impossible franchise. I think Brian too have both been solid fans for this entire franchise. Two,
not so much with two.
Oh no! Oh yes,
three saved it. Three saved it.
Yeah, like I was gonna go into that. I think you meant like, no, I'm not really a fan of the franchise. I'm like, what? When? Why are we doing this video? But I do know. I think going into our summer movie preview, this was my number 2 most anticipated film of the summer. Obviously behind Jurassic World Rebirth, which I'm still not necessarily excited for that. It's dinosaurs, so I had to be anticipated for it, but I'm expecting a fucking train wreck. And I refuse to watch the new trailer. I refuse to watch it. But Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning, or The Final Reckoning. I like I said, the first Mission Impossible film, and we'll give an overview of the entire franchise once we're done with the non-spoiler and spoiler discussion of this film. But I would say, like, the first one, I remember, like, I was 11 and everyone was like, oh man, this movie has so many twists and turns. If you miss the first 5 minutes, you'll be lost the whole way. And it's like, I think it's like more like the first 20 minutes than the first 5 minutes personally, but I just remember being like, it's okay. It's not anything great. And then 2 came out and 2 was fucking garbage. But like you said, 3 pretty much kind of like Fast and Furious 4. It resets it without resetting it. And from then on, each movie has just been awesome all the way through. Some are better than others, obviously, but none of them have been just downright bad or even just okay. They've all been good to great to fucking awesome. And I have loved this franchise pretty much since the 3rd film. And knowing that this potentially is the last one, I'm a little sad. I'm a little sad that it's going away, because it's always been something that's like constant. Like, oh, we're going to have Tom Cruise. We're going to do Mission Impossible. We're going to have something fucking crazy happen. He's 62 now. Does not fucking look it, though. I will say this. This is the most shredded I think I've ever seen Tom Cruise since fucking Top Gun. Because he has his shirt off a lot in this movie. And I'm going, fuck, even Kimberly's like, how old is he? I go, he's 62. Calm down. But yeah, I mean, like, the dude is getting up there, but he doesn't seem like he's quitting anytime. So you and I are both like, he's finishing this so he can start doing like regular movies and not having to be crazy anymore. But according to him, he's going to keep doing the crazy stunts even after this film. I mean, we'll see what happens. But I've been sadly anticipating this film because I don't want the series to go away, because I love this series. But I mean, what more can they do going into this final film? But I know you and I were both excited for this film. What were your thoughts before you went into it?
Yeah, well, first I just want to say I think that he is trying to kind of wrap up Mission Impossible, because he wants to, so he can move on. He's already talked about how he wants to make a sequel to Top Gun, another sequel to Top Gun. And he wants to
the money it made.
And he wants to make a sequel of Days of Thunder too. So he's gonna like let the vehicles do the stunts, and all he has to do is sit in a chair. You know,
if they get the people that did Top Gun Maverick and F1 to do Days of Thunder, that's gonna be fun.
The problem is, I think the F1 is gonna set the bar too high. I don't know if we'll see.
Well, because F1 and NASCAR are two different. Yeah.
But
I'm not gonna scoff at a Days of Thunder 2 with those people doing the shots. So right. Yeah.
But I mean, I've enjoyed the franchise. Like I said, 2 I found super disappointing, but then like from 3 on, as you already said, they've been good to great. It just reinvented the franchise, and I've liked them all along. Now, when they did the Dead Reckoning Part 1, I was thinking, why do they have to do a story that has to span 2 films? I'm kind of sick of these 2-parter things. Just make one film and then move on to make the second one. I still kind of felt that way going into this one, but like the trailers and stuff at least made it look like there's going to be, you know, exciting. You know, I love the cast as they have it now, which is why I feel like if Tom Cruise, like at one point they talked about Tom Cruise stopping doing Mission Impossible and like Jeremy Renner was going to like take over.
Yeah.
That ended up not happening. For
Then we thought
what
it was going to be Henry. That didn't happen.
well, Henry, I think, was more just people their
Hoping.
theories about it, which clearly wasn't the case because in the one movie he was in, he turned out to be the villain. But I would have loved to see Henry go on and do it. But I would still love now, like if they moved on without him, or if like they made him the head of it or something, and then let other people be the ones in the field. Because I
Kind of like
one thing I've always loved about
did.
this since the first one, when they got Ving Rhames and Jean Reno in there. I mean, after they killed off in the first scene, the first team. When they assembled kind of the second one, I really like that. And every movie since then, they've like assembled these great teams. They've it's kind of Fast and the Furious, where like more people have come, like obviously people have left, but then sometimes they come back in later on. And I love the team because the actors they've assembled is a great cast. And so I wouldn't mind seeing more, with or without him.
I almost would be
don't make
okay
any more though. I'm satisfied.
I'm okay if they decided to continue on with it, and he kind of turned into like what Jeremy Renner and Alec Baldwin were in like Rogue Nation, where like they're the secretary or the whatever Renner's role was. I can't remember what he actually was. He definitely wasn't on the he was like the handler. If he moved on to that, which technically in 3 that's what he was. He was kind of a trainer. He wasn't doing it anymore. And then, he brought me back in, and then he just went fucking crazy after that. But, I mean, because that's the thing. A lot of people are wondering, how does this movie end? Like, does it end open to they can continue it, or does it have a definitive end? And the answer is, little spoilery, is that it's still open. Like, it has an end, but if they decided in 2-3 years, kind of like John Wick, like, we got a good story, let's come back. Yeah, it's like they can easily come back and do Mission Impossible 9. And I would not be mad if they came back and did Mission Impossible 9 because I love this franchise. And even before we jump into our initial thoughts of it, I mean, I went in, I think I liked Dead Reckoning more than most people. I think I even liked it maybe more than you did. Now, I went back and rewatched the entire franchise this past week before this, mainly because Kimberly had only seen like the first 2. So I was like, well, if you're gonna come with me, you're gonna watch all these. Not that I know if any of these are gonna connect. Luckily enough, we fucking did, because boy, did they connect. And they were going through them all. There were some that I was like, you know what, I remember that being better than what it was, or you know what, I think I scored this one too low, and it deserves to have a higher score. And I will say, I think the second time around watching Dead Reckoning, I don't want to say I liked it less, but it wasn't as high up in my score as it was first time watching it. And that kind of is how it was watching this. When I left the theater for Final Reckoning, I was like, oh my God, was this the best one? Was this like rivaling, my favorite one? I was in a very, very great mood. I loved everything about the movie. And then, of course, much like everything, that recency bias, you sleep, you wake up, you start thinking about the movie, and then you start kind of noticing little things like, oh, and so for me, going into Final Reckoning, my main thing was, is this going to be the final one? Then you got to fucking stick the landing. And make sure that fans, as well as people who aren't fans, who just all of a sudden maybe are walking into this for the very first time, which why the fuck do you walk into a movie 8 films in as the very first time, you crazy motherfuckers. And that's what a lot of people have been complaining about that I've been seeing for the reviews is like, oh, the first 45 minutes just feels like they're recapping the other films, or they're doing all these flashbacks. They are, but I didn't get mad at that. It made me go, thank God we went back and watched all these before we, went.
I felt like it definitely was not 45 minutes, but within that first, I'd say half hour, I felt like there was a lot of recapping and flashbacks, previously on Mission Impossible. It's like they kept mentioning these things and showing stuff to show how it got to this point. And I'm just thinking, people have already either seen the movies, or if they care enough, they should have at least looked into what happened before this movie. Like you said, don't just jump into the 8th movie and be like, wait, well, how come I don't understand what's going on? Because
people are stupid.
Clearly it's a series. I mean, the last one was called Part 1. They were going to call this Part 2. So, I mean, they changed the name, but still, it's like, clearly this is the second part of a story. So I do feel like that it was unnecessary recap, but I did not feel, it definitely was not the whole, like in the first 45 minutes. There were definitely periods of flashbacks and recapping throughout the first like maybe half hour, but it wasn't the whole thing. I think it wouldn't bother me as much, and maybe this is the same with other people, if the movie wasn't so long. But when it's so long, you're thinking like, oh, they could have cut this, they could have cut this, they could have got rid of a lot of the recapping, things like that. So,
but I mean, in my or not in my defense, I didn't
did you make this movie?
I didn't make the movie. In its defense, it's only 6 minutes longer than part 1. It's only 6 minutes longer.
It feels much longer though.
I disagree. I think this one flows better than the first one for me personally. Maybe it's because I was just more invested because I knew it was the last one, and I was just in on it because we didn't have to build anything up at this point. Like, we know the story, we know what the stakes are, we know what we're going after, so we don't need. Granted, like I said, why are they explaining? Well, they're explaining the shit for some people who obviously are idiots and jumped into the movie without seeing the other 8 or at least 7 before the 8th film. Like I said, I didn't mind that, but that seems to be the thing that everyone is attacking. When I'm reading people's reviews, everyone is attacking that first act. Now, they say pretty much second act on is top-notch Mission Impossible, and I am inclined to agree. I think once they actually, once we get to a certain, I will say, emotional beat. I'll say that without going to the spoiler. We'll talk spoilers in a little bit, guys. This is for the non-spoiler people. Once we get to a certain emotional beat at the end of the first act, I think the movie hits the ground running, and I don't think it lets up until the final shot. I enjoyed this immensely. I think Tom Cruise and the rest of the cast are great in the film. There's definitely no weak link. I think you and I both were not necessarily hard on her, but we were both like, we were so upset that Elsa died in 7. They were like, don't make us hate Haley Atwell. We love Haley. Don't make us hate her because you killed Rebecca Ferguson. And we go, well, why is she here? Like, she's so worthless and stuff like that. Even Kimberly, going back and watching these, she was like not a Haley fan in the 7th film because she felt like you and me. She got so fucking mad when Elsa died. And she's like, you dumb bitch, it's your fault she died. she was invested in it. But I feel like in this movie, they made Haley earn her stripes. They definitely made her character feel like she belonged, and they make her go and do things that are very, part of the team. She's just not like that outlier like she was in the 7th film where it's like, yeah, you're part of the group. Are you though? Not really. You're not really doing anything except causing havoc. And I think in this one, she definitely gets her time to shine. I think Simon Pegg gets great moments in this film. Ving Rhames gets some really great moments in this movie. And obviously Tom Cruise is great. I still think this is, and I think this is probably one of the main problems that most people had with 7. And this one is too. I do think this is probably one of the, not the weakest, but one of the weaker villains in the franchise. I know a lot of people were pissed off by the AI thing, which I think the AI is just kind of the big MacGuffin through the movie. It's more, oh God, help me with his name. Gabriel. I think Gabriel's character, he's this. I feel like they built him up to be this big bad because of something in Tom Cruise's or in Ethan's past, which they still never really.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is like,
it's not
really a spoiler to say something that didn't happen, but like they built it up as like he has this personal past, like he killed this woman. He's like
this random woman.
Actually, that's the whole reason that it was. He ended up joining the IMF, and then so I mean, he's also the villain of this movie because of his involvement with the entity and all that. But it's like this movie. There was not even a mention of his past.
They showed snippets of it and basically saying that I think it was when Angela Bassett's video was playing to him. She was like, "You were accused of murder, and you chose to be in the IMF," and it blinked back to that.
Tom Cruise, Ethan doesn't even react to that, and there's no mention of it. There's no conversation about it when he faces off against Gabriel later. There's nothing.
Yeah, we still don't know who the fuck that woman was. Was he a sister, girlfriend, another wife,
another agent? I guess he wasn't part of the team.
No, he was just a normal person at that point. Was there another wife before Julia? We don't know. They still never answered that question for us. And then of course he kills Elsa. and other things happen in this movie, and so he's built as this like really big bad, but I feel like he still just always fell flat to me in the scenes he has with Tom. I never felt like to me the best villain, not Henry Cavill, because Henry Cavill's just fucking awesome. The best villain has always been Philip Seymour Hoffman or Sean Harris. They were the ones that had the best like chemistry with Tom, and they felt like a threat and they felt like a villain to him throughout the franchise. And yes, Gabriel is like the yin to Ethan's yang in terms of skill, but in terms of like moments in the movie, I just feel like Gabriel's character just wasn't up to par with the rest of the franchise.
I agree, but the more I think about it, the franchise, I feel, has always had weak villains. I mean, the first one you had John Voight, who, you know, because of the personal connection, because he was, you know, his mentor, and he, you know, was you know, turning on him and everything. I understand how that one had some stakes to it. Two, I honestly barely remember because Doug Ray Scott, you know, whatever. Philip Seymour Hoffman.
He was basically like the body double of Ethan throughout the movie.
Philip Seymour Hoffman made a great villain. But then, like, after that, when you start getting into like Sean Harris and then Esai Morales and the guy from the Dragon Tattoo, the original version, I remember the guy's name.
The one from Ghost Protocol that you and I can't remember.
Michael something. But I've thought they've always been weak villains. I didn't really care about the villains. I didn't care about the characters. It's like they were like the MacGuffin to me. It's like the MacGuffin and the villain is just something to set the backdrop for them to do cool action sequences and stunts. It's like the stories of all the Mission Impossibles. Like I in my review of Dead Reckoning, and I actually copy pasted into part of my review for Final Reckoning, what I basically said that, like all the Mission Impossible movies, the plot's overly convoluted and the MacGuffin is whatever, but the stunts are and the action are top notch and fun. Because it's like
I feel like the main villain in this movie was time, because he has a clock. Now, a lot of his movies, there's a clock. There's a bomb going off, or he has to get to here in so many days, or Julia's gonna die, or something's going on. But this one had like a legitimate like end of the world clock on it. And so a lot of the time it wasn't like, oh man, is he gonna catch Gabriel? Like, oh no, is he gonna get this done? And I think he has like 3 days to do the mission.
It was like doing clock inception, because there's the big deadline, and then there's like other deadlines within deadlines, and he has to like
so the main villain was time throughout this movie, which I didn't hate that, because I felt those stakes as we were going through that second act. I'm like, god damn, like how much time's passed? Like how much time's he actually got left? Like I actually was generally worried for Ethan. And obviously the movie takes he has like 15 seconds left, 5 minutes later, 12 seconds left. But it's still one of those things where it's like, that's the main villain of this. It's not, because it's like, in the situation in the movie is basically the world has gone to shit because of the entity. And it's now warring nations. We're on the brink of World War III. We're on the brink of nuclear war because of what the entity is doing. So Ethan, on top of having to deal with Gabriel, on top of having to deal with the entity, he basically has to deal with like Russia and other people just interfering because they're trying to get to what Ethan's trying to get to. And so they're bad guys, but they're not bad guys at the same time.
There's like the whole cult of the entity too that's trying to prevent him from stopping the entity.
Which didn't, outside of like one dude in the movie, that didn't really become a point. It was just more like, oh, there are people in the world who side with the entity. And outside of like one guy in the movie, that really didn't become much of a plot point. It was just more kind of like
I can think of two, which we can get into later. But yeah, it was never a major plot point. It was just kind of like another thing to him to worry about.
Yeah. So, like I said, once the film got into the actual mission, and I read your review before this, so I kind of already know where you're going with a lot of things. There is a scene in the middle of the movie that I know Brian wasn't a fan of, or Brian said it went too long.
Way too long. I believe it's what I said.
I fucking loved that scene. I thought it was great, and all I kept thinking was, man, this would have looked amazing in IMAX, but I'm not watching this in IMAX. And I kept going, this is gonna, I bet this would look so fucking amazing and sound so fucking amazing in IMAX. And I felt what he was feeling in those scenes. I'm trying not to say what it is because we'll wait for the spoiler, but I loved everything about those scenes. I loved the build up before we got to the scene where he was at that one location with those characters. I loved those characters. I really, really loved those characters. I kind of wanted to stay with that group because I actually really enjoyed those people. And I know you enjoyed one of them because we both love that actress. But then once we got to that point and then we got to the final act, the big stunt, which I think anyone who saw the trailers, it's him on the plane. That's Tom's biggest stunt. That has got to be his biggest stunt yet. With everything that he had to go through, with everything he had to do. And that's saying a lot for what he has done through this franchise. I know you thought it was a little long. Go ahead.
No, that stunt specifically?
We know what we're talking. The middle part we'll leave until the spoiler.
You're asking about that stunt specifically?
The big stunt. The big stunt.
Yeah, I was honestly unimpressed and kind of bored by that stunt. It's like, first of all, they've had a real problem in the last couple movies, the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 movies, of where leading up to the release of the film, they're always building up. Everybody's talking about this stunt. They're showing clips of the stunt. They're showing how he did this stunt, and it's like the last one with the jump and the motorcycle, what he in parachutes. It's like by the time they got to this one, it's like, okay, he's doing this biplane thing. We get it. We know what's going to happen. They've been talking about it, building it up, and then I watched it. And it's kind of like, I mean, is it impressive that he did this stuff? Yes, but it's like, as far as the story, as part of the story, it's like I felt like that scene went on like twice as long as it needed to. It's like, we get it, you're climbing around on a plane and you're really doing this stuff. I mean, obviously I have safety harnesses and things, but it didn't do that much for me. And honestly, I'm kind of over the whole Tom Cruise's big stunts thing. It's like, I liked the movies before they became about, oh, what's this movie's big stunt? And I feel like that, especially because of the way they hype it up ahead of time, I almost feel like that takes away from it because everybody's just waiting for that big stunt. What's the big stunt of this movie? And it's like, when they got to this one, I'm kind of like, can we just get more focus on the story? But part of that may also be the fact that I tend to like the supporting cast in these movies more than Tom Cruise. I mean, I enjoy Tom Cruise in these movies, but he's not the selling point for me. It's like when I watch this movie, I love seeing Ving Rhames. I love seeing Simon Pegg. I love Haley Atwell. I rewatched the Dead Reckoning like the day before I went and saw this.
Yeah.
And I really, really liked Haley Atwell in this. And then I really liked her in this one as well. And then, of course, all the new additions they have to it, I really enjoyed. Although I feel like it's not spoilers, so I can talk about it now. But like Hannah Waddingham, is that her name? Waddingham?
Yeah, Waddingham.
And Katie O'Brien, who we both love.
Yeah.
I feel like they were like, oh, we're gonna get these, these actresses who are these, big breakthroughs. They're becoming these hot people. But I feel like they already had the movie set at that point. So like, well, we can fit you in a tiny role here, fit you in a tiny role here. So you're basically nothing but cameos. And so it's like, it's a little frustrating because I would have liked to have seen both of them have bigger roles. But
I agree. I think that they did good in the roles that they got. I don't think that they were miscast. Obviously, they're two actresses that we both really enjoy. We would have loved to have seen them in it bigger. Honestly,
my favorite people in this movie, I loved Haley. I love Pom Clementif. I don't know. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong.
Pom is doing so well since Guardians.
And I liked what they did with her in this movie because we were worried it was gonna be like Fast and the Furious when they just like accepted, Jason Statham into their family. Because we were like, well, wait, she's killed who knows how many people, including some of their own, and it's gonna be like, hey, come on and join our team. But then when you see the movie, it's not really a spoiler, just saying how they brought her in. It's not, hey, join our team. It's like, hey, you have something we need, and you can help us out, and at the same time we can help you get revenge on this guy who turned on you. And so I like the way they handled that because I like Pom. I honestly would have liked to have seen more of her in this movie. She kind of seemed like she's in the background most of the time.
I mean, she is, but I think she still gets her time to shine through multiple points in this film. I think Pom is quietly becoming one of our more underrated actresses. I feel like when she is utilized, she's fantastic. It's just whether or not the films want to utilize her or not. And I feel like this, and even the first one, when they let her kind of just do her thing, I think she's great in both of these films. And we thought so in Killer's Game as well, when they were actually like, oh, she actually gets to like talk and be a badass. And it's not that she didn't get to do that as Mantis, but she's playing a different kind of role. And this, she's kind of the same character almost in this Killer's Game. But I thought she was great in this. Nick Offerman, that was a name that when it popped up on the cat, and Holt.
He's another one who felt like he was like in there in such a small role. I was like, I mean, it's nice to have actors you like play
Yeah.
these small roles, but at the same time, you're like, if you're gonna give us somebody like that, give us a bigger role for that person.
I remember like sitting in the theater because I stayed away from trailers for this. I did not look at the cast list or anything. And like me and Kimberly are sitting in the theater and like it's doing like, you know, the dun, dun, and the next part we're like, they're in this? Oh, like we were getting so like we saw Hannah and Nick and all them.
I forgot Katie O'Brien was in it, and I missed it in the credits even. And so
I didn't see it. And if I saw it,
I'm like, oh yeah.
And that's the thing too, is we probably both saw it, but our brain doesn't think of Katie O'Brien like that yet. Like I saw Holt and I saw Nick and I saw Hannah and I got super excited for all three of them. I did not see Katie O'Brien's name, and if I did, it was just like a blink and miss it. And when she popped up, I was like, hey, yay! You know, her and Tremel Tillman, who played Captain Bledsoe. Loved him in this movie. I thought he was great.
Was he the captain of the sub?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I love that actor.
Yeah,
for anyone who knows who he is, he's in Severance on Apple.
I've never seen him before, as far as I know, but I liked him in this.
I really like. I loved the whole middle, like with the Ohio. I loved the actors in that. I that whole part of the movie. I was just enjoyed about. But I know this non-spoiler is going to go along. In terms of the film, does it help you to go back and rewatch some stuff? Yes, especially the first movie. They really go back to the first film in this in more ways than just one. And one I thought was like, fuck yeah. And the other one I was like, yeah, they could have done more with that. They really should. They probably should have if they were going to make this a point, and they really didn't. But there's one major facet of the first movie that they bring back into this that I actually was really happy about. And then they kind of touch base on almost all the movies except for 2. They make sure they don't really mention 2. You see clips of 2, but they don't really talk about 2 that much. And also for me, who loves 3, they definitely call back to 3, which I really, really love. 3 is one of my favorites.
That's one thing I had a problem with. Again, not getting into the spoiler side of it yet, but there was a lot of retconning in this movie, which for me, I thought was completely unnecessary. I thought it didn't add anything. It didn't change anything. It was connecting things just to connect things. And for me, I was kind of like, why did you do that? I didn't feel like you needed to do that. I guess I'm guessing they just want to feel like one big arc from 1 to 8. But it's like, you don't need to have that.
There's one piece of new character info that we get in this movie about a character that we know already that ties it to 1 that I felt like could have been something bigger. And for almost a 3-hour movie, they really didn't do much with it.
Didn't do anything with it
at all. And I felt like they should have. Now, like I said, the other part of 1 that they connected to, it also feels like
the one thing you're talking about. It also feels like they just thought of that later. It's like if you go back and look at Dead Reckoning now, you're not like, okay, they were building this. Like, no. After Dead Reckoning, they're like,
they change. Yeah, no, there was definitely no build up of that in part 7. There was no build for that character.
Yeah, it was just an afterthought. Yeah.
But the other thing in 1, which like I said, we'll touch base, I really, really enjoyed. Did you, or did you not care for it?
The other thing in that's one of my favorite parts. I love that. Yeah.
Oh yes, yes. And what's funny is that Kimberly spotted it first. She was like, "Hey," I'm like, "What?" I'm like, 5, 4. Oh, it's like yes, and it was one of my favorite parts of the film as well. I loved that. But yeah, at the end of the day, story wise, it worked for me. The action definitely worked for me. The villain, if you had problems with it in 7, it's not really going to make you feel better about this in this one. I loved it. I had a blast with this. Now, I did drop my score down a little bit, compared to right out of the theater to now, which is like a day or 2 later. Just because I can see the issues and some story aspects, like I said, the thing that they attached to part 1 that really just wasn't utilized. There's also one scene that I felt like at least one line of dialogue should have been said in the movie, and it wasn't. But for me, I give it 4 stars. It's a high 4 for me because at the end of the day, I was captivated. I was in awe of the action, and I was happy and emotional. I definitely got emotional at least 2 points in this movie. I'm man enough to admit that I cried at the end. I got emotional at the end of this movie because I love these characters. I care about these characters. You and I were both furious when they killed Ilsa last movie. I was even more mad with stuff that happened in this movie. And then, like I said, the end of the film, immediately I started tearing up, and I'm not, I'm man enough to admit it. But for me, like I said, I loved what we got with here. If it is the last one, it ends, perfectly for me. If they continue on, I am not going to be mad at it. Like I said, I don't know. I know you didn't love it as much as me, but what was your final score for it?
Well, I've been struggling with my score on this one because it's as much as I have already, and I'm going to in the spoiler section talk about more. I'm going to make some criticisms or things that didn't work for me. For the most part, I really did very much enjoy this movie. It's just for me, this movie felt. I think the word I'm looking for is bloated. I think this movie feels bloated. It feels like it's this 2-hour and 45-minute movie.
9.
I think
9 if you count credits.
2:49, but I feel like it could have been 2:15. I feel like that first hour and 45 minutes could have been like an hour. I feel like they took their time way too many things. I think there's a lot of scenes that were unnecessary and a lot of scenes that go on way too long. Some action sequences, which again we'll talk about later in the spoiler section. But I just feel like it's bloated. But that's not necessarily a criticism of the movie in terms of how much I enjoy it. Because like when I first saw Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, that's what my review said. My review called that movie bloated. But anybody knows me knows that I love all 3 of the first Pirates of the Caribbean movies. And it's kind of how I feel about this, in that I enjoyed it. I just feel like it was a little bloated, and I feel like if they'd done some things differently or tightened some things up, I could have enjoyed it even more. And so that holds me back. My current rating on it is like a high 3.5. There's a very, very good chance it's going to move up to a low 4 when I rewatch it again. But right now it's at 3.5.
Okay. Also, big shout out to Angela Bassett, who every time she's on screen now, she fucking kills it.
Oh,
she's
every
great.
time she's ever been on screen, she's killed it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, but it's even more so because they gave her a bigger role in this. I didn't notice this in the first movie that she was fucking president until I went back and rewatched it. I was like, why is her photo up there? I'm like, oh, she must be president now. Cool. I did not. And then in the second movie, I was like, oh yeah, she is, because she's the president now. And of course, you give Angela Bassett a way bigger role in this as the president. She's going to knock it out of the park, and she fucking did, because Angela Bassett's awesome and everything. But we are now going to go to the spoiler section of this. So if you guys have not seen Final Reckoning, go see it and then come back and watch this. If you guys have, or you guys just don't care about being spoiled, then stick around. So here's your 5-second warning. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, so the tie back to the first film. Let's go with the negative part of it first. Having was it Briggs? I think is his name, Briggs, be tied.
Oh, Shea Wiggum? Yeah, Briggs.
Shea Wiggum, who plays Briggs, to bring that back to say, oh, he's the son of John Voight before John Voight joined the IMF. That's always bothered me. It's Mission Impossible, but they're the IMF. Impossible.
Yes.
I fucking hate it. Just call it the MIF. But
just call me MFers.
When that works too. When they first announced it in the movie, I was like, ooh, where the fuck's this gonna go? Nowhere. It went fucking nowhere.
Yeah, they announced it. My first reaction was like, why? But okay, let's. I was it's the same kind of curiosity as you, but I was a little bit more negative with the initial. I'm like, what the fuck is this? But let's see where this goes. This could be intriguing.
I think it's more weird for me. Like, I'm so glad. I was more like, I'm so glad we went back and watched the first movie, so this has context. That's more where I felt about it. But yeah, it didn't, outside of like 2 scenes with Tom, like Shay's not utilized in this movie at all, and he's a really good actor.
Well, it's like I felt like they used him a lot more in this movie, but then at times it felt that. But then when I look back at it, he was like in scenes, but he wasn't really doing anything substantial. He was, and
that's the one thing too. It's like at the very end when we are leading to the plane, him and Kittredge get in a car, and like, oh, they're chasing after Tom and Gabriel, and then they just like left. They're like, where the fuck are they? Weren't they chasing after him? No, they just like bailed apparently, and then showed up at the end of the movie.
Well, they took off. I'm like, what happened to those guys? And
yeah, I was like, I'm like, are they? Did they like just forget about these 2 characters? I'm like, oh no, there they are after everything's over. No, they just fucking ran away.
Was like Briggs has his I don't know if he's a subordinate, if he's a partner, what that Greg Tarzan Davis's character, who I think is Degas. I don't know what I pronounce his
Um,
name.
I got the cat. Yeah, Degas. Yeah.
But like his partner or his subordinate or whatever
That
he
was.
is.
I
Now
got
there's
a
this
point
initial,
about that too. So continue your point. I got a point on
there's
top of that.
that initial scene where they knock out Shea Wiggins' character, and then the other guy ends up basically helping them and joining their team. Then later on, when Briggs encounters the team again, he makes no acknowledgement of like, hey, my partner's working for the other team side now.
Yes, that was the part. Like literally, like we're driving home, and I'm like, why didn't they address this? Like, because granted, at the end of Dead Reckoning, you had that like
he's kind of like, what if he's right kind of thing. Yeah,
he's siding with Ethan, but they like both like kind of help Ethan at the end of the first film, and then like that start of the second movie, it's like, oh no, we're back to square one, and they're not on the same page with Ethan. But then he joins, and then when he catches Tom halfway through the film, his first thing is he alive? Did you kill Degas? Like, no, he's fine. He's with my team. Okay, but then like I said, at the end when they capture them all and they're all saying, there's no communication with them. Like, really, you
not
joined
even
him?
Acknowledgement. Yeah,
exactly. It's like, you joined him. Like, we've been chasing. Really? Or like, there was nothing. There was nothing. They are on two separate islands the whole movie. And even when they're 5 feet in front of each other, still separate islands. That bugged the shit out of me. More so that the Palmer thing, the Palmer son thing, went nowhere outside of like a handshake at the end of the fucking movie. But yeah, that bugged me. That was like, dude, you guys have been partners for how long? And then you finally you see that he's alive. Like, I was like, is that going to be a conflicting thing that he sided with Ethan and like, oh, maybe I chose the wrong side, or maybe I should help them? No, fucking nothing. You left his ass to die with the bomb. You didn't seem to care about your partner at all. So yeah, that bugged the shit out of me. And fuck Kittredge. Fuck that douchebag. God, I was hoping that Kittredge would die.
Problem is it so often in the whole series, but even in this movie, where it's like you have these people who, like even Kittredge has been the guy who's been like, Kittredge is the voice that in most of the movies where it's like, your mission, should you choose to accept it, blah blah blah, is Kittredge, and he's the one who obviously recruits people like Ethan even sends Grayson says Kittredge will make you this offer, blah blah blah. So he's clearly part of it, and he's seen how many times he's saved the world, and yet he still like doubts him every time and fights against him every single time. And it seems like there's so many characters throughout the whole series who, again, like with Briggs, with Shea Wiggins' character, where it's like, at the end of the last one, he kind of seems like he's like, okay, I get what you were doing, I understand the reasons you were right, you had your motivations, but then now he's just back to like, no, get that guy. And I feel like maybe that's why they decided, well, let's make him Phelps' son, so he has a reason to hate him. I don't know.
Let's give him a reason to still be at odds with Ethan, so that way they're both not together.
Yeah.
Which, once again, why not? You could have had Shea. You could have had Briggs with him. Would it have added more to the movie? Maybe not, but it would have given him more screen time. But there was no benefit to having him on the other side. It'd be one thing if he was like one step ahead, or if he just constantly got in their way, but he doesn't ever. So it was just like, what was the point of not having Shea just join Ethan's team and just be on screen more? Instead, you had to have him just be kind of Kittredge's lackey.
Yeah.
And even then, Kittredge almost, for the most part, just didn't really have a need in this movie, except for just being like this motherfucker, like just ruined the plan. Like, goddamn, will someone shoot him? No. Why? Because Kittredge never fucking dies, even though he should. You killed fucking Alec Baldwin, but you can't fucking kill Kittredge? Like, where was Jeremy Renner? Where the fuck was Jeremy Renner this whole time? They never explained why he wasn't around anymore.
Yeah.
Because like I said, in Rogue Nation, he was like their handler, and then Fallout, he's not even mentioned. Like, he's nowhere to be found. There's no like name drop, like, oh, he's off doing that. No. Same thing with oh god, what's her name? That was in Ghost Protocol. Her and because in 3 you had like Maggie Grace and Reese Davies, the guy from Tutors.
Oh, 3.
John Reese Davies or something like that. I don't know.
Kerry Russell, you mean?
No, Kerry Russell dies. I'm talking about his Maggie Grace
Maggie Q. That's
or Maggie Q. Sorry, Maggie Q. And the guy from Tutors. It's not
Jonathan Rhys Meyers.
Yeah, yes. like they're with his team, and then the next movie happens, and they're not even brought up. And then in the fourth movie, it's Jeremy Renner and I can't remember her name.
I remember that movie.
I have to look up Ghost Protocol real quick. But like once again, here you go, Ghost Protocol. Pull up the cast.
Paula
Patton. She's part of the group, and like at the end of the movie, they're like, "Take this phone, you're part of the team," and then she's gone. She just doesn't come back. And then like I said, and then Jerry Renner becomes like basically a suit in Rogue Nation, and then in Fallout, he's just gone. Because that was one thing. Like as Kimberly was going back and rewatching all these, she's like, "Is it just new people every fucking movie, or does like anyone stick?" I go, Ving Rhames is in every fucking film.
Ving Rhames is everyone, and there's certain characters who come back into the fold, but I kind of wish that more of them would, because I understand not everybody's gonna be on every mission. Like maybe we assemble a different team or use different people, or they're off doing a different mission or something. But I would have liked to have seen Paula Patton again, although I think
I figured if we were ever going to get Paula Patton and Renner back, it was going to be this movie. It was like, it's the final one. Bring them in. Why wouldn't they be in on this? Why wouldn't they be helping at this point? Hell, I mean, not that Tandy Newton, no, because she was just a thief. Like, there's no point of bringing her back in. You have Haley Atwell. But
I would keep wasting people, because like we've already said, they wasted Henry Cavill by making him turn bad. I would love to see him in more movies. They wasted Josh Holloway, who I love, but they killed him off after his one scene in was it Ghost Protocol?
Yeah. Vanessa Kirby, she wasn't in this.
Yeah.
I expect Vanessa Kirby to show back up at least at some point. Maybe just the broker something, because that's what she fucking does. But she wasn't brought in at all. Here's my question for you. And like I said, we both love Haley Atwell, so this is not a knock on Haley Atwell at all. Could they have still done this movie with Elsa doing all the Haley shit? Do you think Haley's character was needed in this entire series, or could they have just had Elsa do all the Haley stuff?
I think that they could have had Elsa do the Haley. Now that would not. They'd have to rewrite some things about how the pickpocketing and the quick hands for the switch on the 5D drive and all that shit.
Once again, tie into the first one when he was like, "Where's the disc? Where's the disc?" kind of thing.
Well,
but
they could have given her the part. Now, I really did like Haley Atwell in this.
I did too. Probably
as much.
I'm so mad about Elsa.
Probably as much as I like Rebecca Ferguson as Ilsa. I think I like them both equally, honestly. So I would not have wanted to had to pick or choose. I think that there was room for both of them in this movie. And you could have,
It was just more like he seemed like he was in love with Elsa, and then she died, and he just immediately moved on to Haley. That's my problem.
That's one thing in this movie. It's like it's this weird thing where it's like I felt like at times they were trying to show some kind of romantic attraction between them. But then it seems like they actively didn't. Like they never kiss in this movie. Even she's in that
incubator
chamber with him, but it's almost like she's just there, like I don't know,
fifth element ending right there. Like
they don't do anything in there. They don't kiss. They don't do anything. And at the end, I almost thought there's a moment they're going to kiss, but they don't. So it almost feels like more of just like a respect as like a partner or a sister thing. I don't know.
Like there was that one moment too, like right before he went to go after Gabriel, she like grabbed him, and I was like, "Are they gonna kiss?" And she's like,
"But they don't." No, it was more like they're like, "Okay,
Yeah, it was like they were really like actively trying to make sure that there is no romantic entanglement between them. There's something there, but they're not gonna fucking go through with it. And I think part of me want to say that was smart, because like I said, that was kind of the big issue I had with Haley. Not Haley, but Grace, was like, dude, you moved on from Elsa really fucking fast. She just died. And like, you seem to be just focused. Like, I get it's Haley Atwell, but still, it's like, don't do Elsa dirty like that. But like, this whole movie, it was just like, it was in the air the whole fucking time, and then never went out to it. But like I said, Haley does her due diligence in this movie to actually be worth a damn. Unlike the first movie where she was just kind of
props to Haley Atwell, because I just read something yesterday.
Yeah, she was pregnant.
She was, when she did her big fight scene, which I assume is the one when they're in the Arctic.
No, she didn't fight in that. The fight scene she's talking about is when she gets captured. She fights in that scene when her and Ethan are captured by Gabriel in the very beginning.
Oh, in the beginning, okay, yeah. She's like,
he's about to be tortured. That's a fight scene. She didn't have a fight scene in the entire movie except for that scene. But yeah, she was like, what, 8 months pregnant or some shit?
Well, she was in the fighting in the shootout when they were escaping the.
All she did was the Dunlow's wife did everything, and then you heard gunfire, and then everything else was in the cabin. and that was Palm and Simon and all of them. And then you just see Haley and her on the fucking sled dogs. Like, no, she doesn't fight at all, except for in that very, very first scene.
Okay. There was a brief moment during that first scene, the first action scene, where she's like, kicking people's asses. And for a brief moment, I'm like, oh God, we're doing this fucking Fast and Furious thing where suddenly these people off the street can fight better than mercenaries and soldiers and shit like that. But then I told myself that I'm like, okay, there's some time between Dead Reckoning.
It's been like 9 months to a year later. Or
so
she
had been recruited now for this team. She could have gone through all kinds of training. That's what I told myself.
Yeah. No, yeah, because it does jump ahead at least 9 months to a year. Yeah. But in the shooting of that, she was pregnant during that fight scene. So
like 8 months.
Yeah, which didn't show at all. So maybe she was only pregnant during the fight scene. Because I kept wondering, like, are they doing that thing like in sitcoms where they're making sure they only shoot up? I'd
heard that all the way. And not in all scenes. There are some scenes where it seems like they're hiding things, but I think it's like they saved certain things for the end of the shoot, and that's the ones where it really had to be an issue. So,
but yeah, anyway. So tie back to once again to the first film. Don Lowe, man.
First of all, I think it's so great to bring back that character who's such a nothing character. He's such a side character. He's the guy who just happened to be in that room when this heist was taking place. He was not a major player in that movie of any kind. He was just the dude.
Maybe had like 2-3 lines tops.
He mostly just went in the bathroom and threw up.
Yeah.
And to see him come back for this movie, I thought was not only great to see this actor come back, but I think plot-wise, I liked how it worked, and what I really loved, honestly, and I was not expecting to like this, even though I kind of saw it coming, was when Ethan apologizes to him, and he's "No, I should be. Thank you. You saved my life too, because if you hadn't done that, I'd still be sitting in that room. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't have found this happiness. I wouldn't have found my wife. I wouldn't have found my place, in this world." Mm-hmm. And I was like, "Oh, I love this scene, and I love the way that actor played it."
Because you go back and you watch the whole franchise. For the most part, that's really the only one character who got really fucked over by Ethan unintentionally. Yeah. And for it to tie back around and for Tom to remember, or for Ethan to remember him going, yeah, we've met, man. I'm so sorry. I fucked you over hard. He's like, no, dude, we're good. And like I said, the great part about it was that his character was so vital and was so important through that. He wasn't just like oh, yeah, it's a Don Lowe guy. That's funny. And then, boom, you're done. It's like, no, this is actually a vital, important character for the rest of this film. He's going to help save the world. And even his wife, she was great in the movie for what she was. But yeah, I was happy to see him, but I was even happier that he stuck around and continued on and did this and this and this with them all the way up to the very, very end.
Yeah, the end, thought he was going to him and his wife were going to sacrifice themselves, and it turns out they were able to survive.
That was one thing too, where it's like they're going to sacrifice themselves, and then Degas was like, "I'll stick with them." Why? What the fuck are you going to do? Like, you're not going to help. You're just going to die.
He even says he's like, "There's nothing for me to do in the server room." It's like, except live.
There's nothing for you to do out there either.
You live.
You just stand there and watch.
Because at the time, he didn't know they were going to need to cut three wires at once. At the time, he didn't know there was going to be a chance for them to make it back to the door and live. He assumed he was dying. Now maybe he was
chose to die.
Maybe he was sticking around, as like to guard, like guns in case more people showed up or something. I don't know.
That's the only thing I could go okay, maybe he was thinking that maybe some other people would show up. But at this point, the bomb's activated. No one's fucking sticking around for that shit. They're fucking gone. If Gabriel's gone, they're gone. But I was just like, dude, you're just choosing to die. Like, you can go in the safe and be fine. I was like, what the fuck, character wise? But yeah, like I said, Don Lowe was great. His wife was great. Luther, how'd you feel about Luther? Did you like that they made him sick randomly? Was that like, is it so that way they could put him in a place where he couldn't be with the team? Like,
I mean, because he had already said in the previous film, he's like, I've got to go somewhere and be completely offline and work offline in a place where they can't find me. So I understood him going off to some.
I thought it was more just because of the entity couldn't find him. I didn't really.
Right, that's the thing. The last film, that's what they said. They said he had to go somewhere the entity couldn't find him, where he could work completely offline. Not be connected to the internet, any of that kind of thing. And that made sense. And they showed up in this one, and they made him sick. And it's like, this came out of nowhere. It's again, it feels like it's like
Yeah.
the Jim Phelps thing. It's like an afterthought. Like, well, let's make him sick. And it's
Let's
like,
give him a reason, because Ving Rhames should at least be able to defend himself and be able to defend himself because it's fucking Ving Rhames. So it's like, no, let's make him sick and weak, so that way he can still do what he does, which is disarm shit, but he's not going to be able to be at full capacity. Because I'm sorry, he could probably take Gabriel. I'm sorry, Ving Rhames will fuck Gabriel up. But yeah, it's like I didn't really like necessarily like, because as soon as I saw him sick, I was like, oh, fucking Luther's dying. Like, there's no way Luther makes it through this movie. But that moment though still got me. It was more because the dialogue between Luther and Ethan.
Mhm.
Just like, look, man, like, you can't save her. You can't save me. I've accepted it. You need to get out of here so you can save the people we've never met or we won't meet, or whatever the line is.
Which I get, this is an emotional moment happening between them, which I get. But at the same time, it's like they're sitting there like having this peaceful, slow.
They have less than 2 minutes.
Motherfuckers.
That's what's funny about it.
Safety. It's like, just can you speed this conversation up a little bit?
That's what's funny about it is, and once again, you have the movie magic, because I'm pretty sure when Ethan shows up, there's like less than 3 minutes. That conversation goes way longer than 3 minutes.
Let me back up a little bit. So Tom Cruise finds out, he realizes that Luther's going to die, that that Gabriel's going to try to kill Luther. He doesn't know exactly how yet, but he knows that Luther's in trouble. So he runs across, it seems like all of London. It's like, you couldn't, you've done it in 30 other movies. You can't knock somebody off their motorcycle.
Tom needs to run a good distance at least once in this movie. I don't think he ran it
like 5 times in this movie.
What killed me in the movie, we'll go back to Luther in a second, was when he's chasing Gabriel at the end of the movie in the car, and his car topples over. He goes, "Fuck it, I'm running." And it's like, he's like 4, Tom. You're not the T-1000. You're not gonna catch him. And they tried to chase him on the plane. Like, you're not gonna catch him. I'm glad he didn't. And luckily, the other plane came through, because I'm just like,
which, by the way, that plane was coming at a speed. I don't care if you grab onto that. That thing's gonna rip your arms off the speed that plane was coming and hit him. Come on.
But that like, him running to go to Luther, like, I remember Kimberly and I both just looked like, Tom's running. But when he got out of the car at the end of the movie and started chasing Gabriel, who's in a fucking vehicle speeding, that made me fucking laugh. I'm like, dude, come on, man. Like, you're not catching him on that, Ethan. But yeah, so I don't know. That's the thing, is like, where the fuck were they, and where was Luther? He thought he was gonna make it there in time. But when he does show up, there's like, it's like 3 minutes or like 2:50 left. That conversation went way more than 3 minutes. And then he still had like, what was it, like, he leaves, there's like, what, 20 seconds left or something like that. I was like, dude, you guys were dead a long fucking time ago. But still, time clock aside, great scene. And I love that they because that was my problem with also Dead Reckoning, is that Ilsa died, and they had like the next scene, it was felt. And then the rest of the movie, granted, it was at the very end of the film and they were going right into their final mission, but Elsa's death outside of that very next scene after she died is not felt the rest of the way. Luther's death is felt throughout the rest of the film. Because his name's dropped, or like, oh, if we had this, or we had this, or we had Luther, so, and then even Gabriel brings up Luther again near the end of the movie. So Luther's death actually feels like earned throughout the film. Like, the emotional weight of Luther is felt throughout the rest of the film, unlike Elsa, which I just felt like they did Elsa dirty in Dead Reckoning. But yeah, now his I forgot about his message. I forgot him saying, like, I left a little message on there for you once you put the pill in. And when he started talking, man, like, literally within like 10 seconds, man, my eyes welled up, and I was like, God damn it! Like, is this movie really gonna make me? Is Mission Impossible really gonna fucking make me cry? God damn you! Good job. And because like, I was crying mainly because of Luther. I think it was when Angela Bassett saw her son that got Kimberly. But yeah, the Luther message, because what's funny is that, like, I got emotional, and like, I stopped listening to Luther because I was emotional. And like, all of a sudden, Angela's like in front of her son. I'm like, I don't even remember what Luther's been saying. I've been so like in my own thoughts. I fucking forgot what Luther was talking about through this whole like probably 2 minutes of dialogue. But yeah, I really loved that they added that little endpoint for the Luther character, because his character deserved it. His character had been there from, the first film all the way the fuck through.
I have a theory. I have a theory. I'm convinced that Luther's not dead, because I think this movie is a prequel to Pulp Fiction, because he's
gonna become that character, really?
Well, because you got Ving Rhames, right? And he's after
Yeah.
the suitcase that when you open up has a glowing gold thing in, just like in that little 5D drive that they closed with the case was glowing gold. I think it's the same thing. That's what's in the case.
Please, no, don't do that to Ving Rhames. Did you think Benji was gonna die?
No. Because I think it's like, I think because they've kind of used that in the past, like with the bomb that strapped to Benji, and kind of he was in danger, and
Benji's always kind of the damsel.
Yeah, so I felt like they wouldn't do that again, although they kind of did, because they put him in danger again, and I thought there was a chance he was going to die, but I think I felt like, unless they're planning on killing off a bunch of these people, like if they were going to kill off Ethan and make sure that's like the final one, then I could see them killing Benji too. But I kind of assumed that he wasn't going to die.
Yeah, once like he went through everything he did and they kept him alive, and then he went like this at the end, I was like, no, if he died and that was his moment that he died, that wouldn't have sit well with me. Like, if he was going to die, he should have died earlier than that. Because then once again, it wouldn't have been felt by Ethan or anything like that. So I'm glad Benji lived, mainly because we also just love Simon Pegg. But yeah, in terms of the like I said, the submarine scene, I fucking loved everything about that scene. Like I said, once he gets picked, honestly, not even gonna lie, totally forgot about the they'll grab you in the water kind of thing. So when he jumps in the water, I'm like, what the fuck are you gonna do there, Tom? Like, what are you gonna do? And then all of a sudden, like, who the fuck are these guys? Like, I was like a fucking Jay from like Doug. Who the fuck's this lady? What the fuck is this? And then also I was like, oh, that's the Ohio people. Okay, because I completely forgot about them. So when they all of a sudden, there was just people just behind him. First off, you tasered him in the water. He probably died.
Yeah, well, first of all, he jumped in this water. It's not just out in the water, which ocean water at all is going to be cold.
It's the fucking Arctic, man.
Arctic ocean water, which, just think about Titanic, how people immediately start getting icicles on them when freeze, and your muscles tense up and you can't swim, things like that.
Yes, but the people on the Titanic were a bunch of pussies. This is Tom motherfucking Ethan Hunt Cruise.
But I'm just saying, it's pretty much instant. You'd be freezing your ass off. Now, granted, they showed up relatively quickly. They were there right away. And then of course they brought him inside and had him, he was sitting under the warm shower and everything.
Yeah.
So I get that, but at the same time, it's just like whatever. But yeah, I liked. I mean, from the sub sequence, like you said, that sub captain, I really liked his character. Especially when he was like, he's like, I don't remember the exact line. He said something about, if you want to poke the bear, you came to the right place or something like that. I'm like,
oh yeah, you came to the right. Yeah, and him calling him Mister the entire time. Mister, I don't know what you're doing. I was like, you still don't know his name? It's like,
and of course, seeing Katie O'Brien showed up, I really liked that whole aspect of it. I would like to see.
I love that she was still like Love Lies Bleeding like built, because like there's that one scene where they're all talking and she's over here just flexing her arm, making sure that vein's popping out. I was like, I see what you're doing, Katie. It's working, but I see you're flexing that arm, making sure that arm looks great.
Thing is, why didn't they just have her like grow up to Hulk size and throw the enemy subs away? It's like,
because she still would have sank to the bottom.
Oh, because this movie isn't A24.
No, what she should have done is when the sub started falling, she just went behind it and lifted up back up. But it was great seeing her in there.
But once he actually went down on his mission down in the suit or whatever, it's I feel like from that point on, that his mission down to the whatever it was, where the entity source.
I can't remember what the name is of the ship.
That whole section of it, I thought that's the one I felt like went on forever. It's like it felt like we had to watch this entire mission of his in real time, and a lot of it was kind of just slow, watching him swim around, watching things float around. And once he gets in there, and then when the action starts, when the sub is rolling and the torpedoes are moving, and it felt like it just one thing after another. It just felt like that scene dragged on for so long. And then like he climbs in the torpedo tube so he can get out. But apparently if you just push the torpedo, punch it hard enough from the inside, it'll just open for you and let you out, I guess.
I don't really know how a torpedo shoot thing works, but I think it pretty much is the torpedo just has to push it open, kind of thing.
I'm pretty sure you have to push something to open the thing to shoot them out. But
I thought that was more or less to shoot the back end of the torpedo through, not necessarily the door itself.
But it's just the whole time. So like when he first couldn't climb through, and my first thought is, take off the pack and put it in front of you like he did. But why did he have to cut off the whole suit to do that? Because I'm sorry, not only in Arctic water, but now you're like 500 feet down in Arctic water. You are instantly fucking frozen. Your muscles are gonna stop working instantly.
See, I thought the pack was gonna have a jet on it that was gonna shoot. But once again, that wasn't even a part of his initial plan. His initial plan was to swim up on his own, because that whole suit was never a part of that initial plan. So technically, his plan went exactly the way it was supposed to go, which was he was going to just be, in there with basically his underwear and die. But his body was going to go into hibernation mode because of how cold it was. The suit wasn't even part of the fucking plan. I was like, oh, maybe that thing's got a jetpack, and then he fucking lets it go. I'm like, first off, if Katie O'Brien ever sees you again, she's gonna beat your ass, man. She told you to protect that fucking suit. But no, that whole scene worked for me, man. I love that scene. I thought it was great. I felt very with it. Now, granted, he said
the tension. I felt the ticking clock. I felt the tension of it. But at the same time, it's kind of like after a while, I'm just like.
But as soon as he ripped off the outfit, the outfit, I was like, okay, this is where people are gonna go. Fuck that, he's dead. Even still, because once again, the pressurizer where he went down probably at least another 100 feet, 200 feet before he finally got free, and then so he had to go up 700 feet.
Well, then he gets up to the surface, basically. Well, under the ice, he hits the surface, and then eventually we find he's been pulled out. But they put him in that decompression chamber. But my thing is, I don't know these things.
I'm not scientifical enough to know this, but
does the decompression chamber do you any good once you're already up there?
That's what I'm saying.
You're supposed to come up in your sub or whatever, and then you go into this airlock or whatever, where they decompress you, slowly decompress it, so it doesn't happen so quickly. But then he's already gone up. The damage has been done. So what's the point of putting him in back in there?
My wonder is even besides that, I think they said he had so many minutes. You have to get in this allotted time, or you're going to die. But wouldn't him coming out of the water, aka Grace pulls him out of the water, from him being out in the open air to her fighting to get his body in there, which I'm granted it was probably not easy because it's Haley and that's Tom. I figured he would have probably died at that point from the
I think there's a lot of issues there, because they also said that they had their special decompression chamber, which you can do it in minutes or in hours instead of in days or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But then they don't use that one. They use the little portable cheap one that they
because it wasn't. But like he said, your ship was never part of the plan.
But I'm just saying that they, if they decompressed him properly in this little inflatable whatever chamber, then it would have still taken the days or whatever instead of hours, and so they didn't have that kind of time. So
that's the one thing too. Is once again, that's the whole time. Is when he died and he went into decompression. It was how much time's passed? Where are we at on this clock? Because
the clock only had 3 days from the beginning of the film.
So, and so 3 days from when he got let go by Angela Bassett.
Yes.
So I'm thinking it's at least a day to probably get him to where he needed to go to the submarine. Then they had to wait for them to get the signal. That was a day. So I would think he would have had maybe 36 hours left, maybe 24 to 36 hours left from when he went into the decompression chamber. And once again, he would have had to have been in there way longer than probably what he should have. That's the movie time thing. That's always an issue.
It's just a movie time you have to overlook.
Yeah, it's a movie time thing. Just like in Fallout, where it's he has 15 minutes. And they're chasing the helicopter for over 20. It's dude, the bomb has gone off.
Well, when they introduced the whole thing about they have their special chamber, which reduces the amount of time it takes to decompress. I'm like, okay, they're addressing this issue that's not enough time, so they can address the ticking clock. But then they don't use that one. That's what threw me off. So
no, because they just get chased away by the bigger sub, and I'm like, can we go back to them? Are they okay? It's oh no, the sub's just basically saying, get the fuck out of here, you kids. This is our area. Get the fuck on. I would have loved to have gone back to them, which I guess they do technically when the entity gets killed. They basically go back to the captain saying, code red's out kind of deal. But yeah, I would have loved it if we had gone back to that team. Because like as we were watching the thing, I was like, fuck, I'd watch a whole movie with this crew. Like I'd be down to watch this group with Ethan. Like I'm totally about this. And also
Or just give me a Hunt for October kind of film without Ethan. Just give me a sub movie
with this crew in the Mission Impossible world. Yeah,
Katie
Mission
O'Brien,
Impossible.
you got the captain. Come on, yeah.
Yeah, you got like the ballerina, the world of John Wick, the world of Mission Impossible.
Or like Hobbs and Shaw be Mission Impossible Presents.
Yes, it's Ohio. but yeah, and I also really enjoyed the fight in the sub with the one dude, the entity helper kind of thing. While also having the fight with everyone in the cabin. I like the duo fight that they had through that whole thing. Which once again I was so worried that Donlo was gonna die. Either get shot or when they were like Simon Pegg's looking around and it's like, oh man, it's like, is he gonna die in the fire? Like, don't fucking do that.
Well, it's like I kept thinking he was gonna sacrifice himself in the fire to make sure he get the coordinates out, and then he was gonna sacrifice himself, with the bomb. It's like, why do they want the guy dead so badly?
Yeah, it's like, don't kill Donlo. He deserves to live, damn it. But like I said, I like that fight. I thought everything about that was really good. I like that it was Katie O'Brien who saved, which I think we all expected either her or the captain to save Ethan at that point. But yeah, it's just like I said, everything worked for me. The whole Arctic thing worked for me as a whole. And like I said, even the very back you said there was another person. Who was the other helper of the entity?
Well, the more I thought about it, it wasn't necessarily an entity thing. It was I was thinking of the guy in the
guy who tried to shoot the president.
But I think that might not have been an entity thing so much as just he didn't want her to stop it. Yeah.
Yeah, we all thought Nick Offerman was going to do that when he asked for the sidearm. That he was going to like, no, I'm taking over this. I think that was the mislead. Because we all thought Offerman was going to do that.
I wonder if that was not his plan, then why did he take the sidearm?
I don't know. I think it was more or less like that was his plan, and then when the time came, he was like, I guess she's got a fucking point. Yeah, or it's like, oh man, I'm gonna do this, and then time comes like, no, I'm not gonna do it. But yeah, no, that guy definitely wasn't an entity thing. I think he was more just panicking and was just like, well, I gotta stop her, and then he fucking got killed. But then he killed Offerman in the process. But like that's the thing is like this whole like entity helper people outside of that one dude, it really didn't come up again.
I think it wasn't intended. I think they basically set up the idea that there's this entity called out there, so
that there are stupid people who
pops up to stop him. Yeah,
that there are stupid people in the world who are always side with the wrong thing just because they feel like they have to fucking be on the other side, which true. But yeah, it felt really like weird. Like I almost felt like it was doing that because didn't say at the very beginning that it was changing like visuals, like the AI was changing, like some guy was holding the gun instead of a camera, and like maybe those people don't really exist.
It's basically America in 2024. Basically trying to spread misinformation to cause people to
because initially that's what I thought these people were. Is like these weren't real people; these were the entity just fabricatingly changing what these people were saying. Because they didn't even look like that one dude. Didn't even look like he was like really there. Like it looked fake. Like the dude that was talking, I was like, oh, maybe this is just the entity making people think, hey, the entity's actually good, kind of deal. But yeah, like that. Like I said, I felt like that was going to be potential of being something, and it fucking didn't. Outside of the one guy, which just once again, if it's just one dude, I
do want to say, if I had to hear the word entity one more time in this movie, I was going to kill myself. Let's make it a drinking game and just everybody kill yourselves. Every time they say the word entity, take a drink.
Yeah. Well, for at least the last two films, yeah. Because the original drinking game was anytime Tom runs, you drink. But going to the final act, I said I thought the airplane stunt, I thought it was great. Which to me, but that's also me going, you just can't get away from it, Maverick. You just can't get away from it, Maverick. You always got a Top Gun. Like, because like as soon as he got on the plane, I was like, how much you want to bet that he was like, I'm gonna Top Gun this bitch, and just like I'm gonna fly a plane. But like I said, I know in terms of the behind the scenes thing, it was the hardest stunt he did because I guess like they kept having to like stretcher him off the plane after every scene because he was so like physically exhausted.
Well, I heard him explain that you don't realize that going that speed at a plane, the air particles are moving so fast you basically can't breathe them in. So he was like basically running out of air after every take, and they had to like keep redoing stuff.
Yeah.
it was hard for him because when the air is flowing that fast, you can't really breathe it in because you can't exhale properly and things like that. So, but my
and then he had to deal with the different
stunt is that
cheese.
I feel like the same thing with the last stunt in the motorcycle last one. I feel like they become publicity stunts to promote the movie because like this plane stunt, I think it could have looked just as good, if not better, if they did it through traditional means. You know, they have some shots that are actual planes. They have some shots of him fighting a plane, like whatever, on a set. I feel like having him actually do these things was nothing more than a publicity stunt. It just seemed unnecessary to me.
I think it more or less just Tom wants to do these things. It's like, what can we do that's awesome this time? I think the thing that might have helped you better is if he didn't have to do it with two separate planes. Now, if he had just grabbed on the Gabriel's plane or had gotten there in time to get on Gabriel's plane and he just did it on his plane instead of having to do it with the red plane.
See, right there.
And he had to do it
right there. You would cut that scene's length in half, essentially, and it would have been better for it, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, because he basically had to redo the same thing, same mission twice, kind of like a video game to a point. But like I said, I thought, just because I knew he was doing that legitimately, obviously, he, like I said, he had harnesses and stuff, but I was just like, fuck, man, I'd be exhausted. And like I said, the stunt coordinator said, like, yeah, like after every scene, we literally had to carry him off the plane because he was physically drained doing that. So I mean, in terms of like
just the arm strength, when the wind and the just the inertia is carrying you trying to push you off the plane so fast and just holding on, I'm sure is just taking all
even that one part near the very end where he basically like just locked his legs around the one bar and like leaned all the way back. I was just like, dude, your abs at that point are just screaming, man. Like
maybe that's why he looked earlier in the movie because he filmed that after the plane
scene.
Dude,
like I said, this is the best shape I think I've ever seen Tom in. He's fucking 62. He was shredded. Because I just remember going, I don't think he's ever been that shredded in these movies. Like, he's always been in like really fucking good shape and like kind of had abs, but not fully because of his age. This movie was like, no, those ab. I'm like, fucking A, dude. Like, bravo, man. Bravo being 62 years old and having, like, the only person I know that probably will be that age and still that ripped is The Rock. Maybe not Vin Diesel. Vin Diesel,
and even The Rock is usually not ripped because he has so much more bulk to him. You know,
he's his stomach is not. He's never been like an ab guy.
Not like Troy Brad Pitt, ripped.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, dude, good, bravo, Tom. Good on you, dude. Good on you. But yeah, did you like that at the very end? It all came down to Haley because she was a pickpocket. That was the only way to stop the entity. It had to be a blink of the eye. I'm pretty sure Ethan could have done that. I really do.
Yeah, I thought that was a little silly to have it be like, the pickpocket needs to be timing and all that stuff. And I thought that was silly and unnecessary. And I also thought, they captured the entity in this 5D
the genie
drive.
In the bottle that glows.
This 5D drive that Luther invented doesn't exist anywhere. Yet there's a port for it conveniently. In this machine.
That is true. There is a port for it.
Now maybe Luther could have designed it.
Wait, did Luther create that, or did he just create the poison pill?
No, because they said Luther made that drive too. Did he?
Okay.
Yeah. But now he could have designed it specifically, like if he knew for some reason what kind of thing was on this connected to. But he could have done that.
He might have.
But the thing is that they capture it in this thing. It's like, well, why do you still have it? Why don't you destroy it? Why are we keeping this thing?
Because at the very end of the movie,
they're like, oh, if you still have this, it's like, why?
You still have that moment. Remember when they're in the decompression chamber? She's like, the only person that should control this thing or have it is you. And he's like, no, I shouldn't. But then you did exactly that. You gave it to him. She's like, yeah, and then he has it, walks away. It's like, okay, so once again, this movie ends with Ethan in charge of the entity. Now, granted, he could bury it somewhere, throw it down, in the ocean.
What's the upside of keeping it around?
That's exactly the point too. It's like, because once again, their whole thought process of why Ethan shouldn't do this was because this would effectively kill the internet. There'd be no more, internet or anything like that.
The economy and all these things. Yeah,
exactly. So it's like, are you keeping it so that way you can change it and control it? Because Ethan, you're smart, but you're not that smart.
But Ethan specifically doesn't want to change it or use it to control anything.
So
said nobody should have
where
it.
does the state of the world be at now?
Yeah.
That effectively smartphones, laptops, computers are all gone to a point. Now, granted, give them like 10 years, I'm sure they'll figure it out. But it's like that is a pretty big like. So where are we at now with this? Because Ethan did this, which is effectively supposed to have done basically Y2K. He basically did Y2K. He killed everything of technology to a point. So how is the world going to survive like that?
But he basically just took the entity out of it. So because all the technology still existed in the world, it's just people couldn't use it because it was no longer could be trusted. You couldn't trust information. You couldn't trust voices on phones. You couldn't trust what you see on TV. And the entity was also taking control of things like defense systems. So I think taking the entity out of it, now everybody has their technology back. Now they can go back to using it.
So technically he trapped the entity, but he didn't shut everything down in the process.
Right. He didn't shut down the world. They just trapped the entity. They've taken the entity out of it.
Okay, so everything's still up and running and working, just with him. Just the virus is gone.
Basically, they pulled the virus out of it. But that's why I asked, like, what's the point of keeping this alive? And even Ethan said, even I shouldn't control it. Nobody should have it. So I don't know why it still exists. Which, while we're talking about the entity, let me back up to the other retcon, which is the rabbit's foot from part 3.
Well, but Simon Pegg did say that every time he thought what the rabbit foot was the anti-god. He says that in the 3rd movie.
But again, it's like they came up with this thing and they had it in this biological way. You knew it was something biological, but like, oh wait, nope, it wasn't. It was this other thing that was inside of that. And it's like, again, it just felt like it doesn't feel like, oh, this was the plan all along, because it wasn't.
But at the very end of 3,
came up with this afterthought to retcon. And to me, again, it didn't add anything to connect those movies. There was no reason to do that.
Remind me, what was the point of the rabbit's foot in this movie? Like the anti-god, what was the point of it in this?
Oh no, the rabbit's foot, it was I from what I understand was essentially again kind of the source code, like an early version basically of the entity, from what I understand.
Is that what was in the sub?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what the rabbit's foot was basically.
Yeah, because that was in 2009, and then the sub crashed in 2012.
Okay. Because I'm trying to remember, it's like, what the fuck was the rabbit's foot in this movie? I know it was the anti-god, but it was like,
the rabbit's foot is basically what the
was
rabbit's
it in the context?
Became with this thing they were using on the sub, which then became the entity. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Because even at the end of 3, since I went back and rewatched all this past week, they even said at the very end of the movie, Tom goes, "So what is the rabbit's foot?" And who was in charge at that time?
Was it Fishburne?
Yeah, it was Lawrence Fishburne. He was like, "If you stay, I'll tell you." And Tom's like, "Nope, I'm going on my honeymoon with Julia." So we never actually found out what the rabbit's foot was at the end of 3. It's had Biohazard on it, but we never knew what the fuck it was. So even at the end of 3, like I said, you still didn't know. So that was probably the only thing they could go back to. Once again, tying the movies together, that could say, "Well, yeah, we never did say what it was."
It was no point in it.
Yeah, it didn't bother me enough, like the Palmer thing, where it's like there was no point to this.
You know, you know what I feel like? I feel like if they had done one or the other, it's like there's just too many retcons and too many connections and throwback. Like I definitely don't count the Donald thing. I love the Donald throwback, but it feels like there was just one too many, retcons. I don't know.
So, anything else you'd like to add before we go to the final part?
No, except just to say that I did really enjoy this movie. I didn't love this movie as much as you do. It's probably not one of my. It's probably mid-tier Mission Impossibles for me. Well, I mean, there's only 8, and I don't dislike any of them except 2. So that's not a negative. It's just saying that there are other movies I love even more in the series.
Mm-hmm.
But I do enjoy this movie. So as much as I've knocked on it, as much as I've pointed out negative things about it, things that didn't work for me, again, that's just because those are things that I think would have made it even more enjoyable than it was.
So the airplane scene didn't work for you. What would you say of the entire series was your favorite big stunt that Tom did?
See, the big stunts, like I said, the big stunts, like
I know they're not big for you, but they're still
really did it for me.
But
of the ones he did, I think honestly the one I enjoyed the most was the climbing of the Burj
in Ghost Protocol.
Yeah, in Ghost Protocol, because it was one of those things, like, especially because that's, I think, the first one that was, it was the first one that was in IMAX as well. I remember seeing that, seeing on the big screen, it's like, looking down, it's, and watching him do that. And this is kind of the first, that was the first movie with like, ooh, the stunt, and Tom Cruise is doing it for real. That was the first time they kind of really hyped that up, because he was on the
because in
outside.
the third movie, I think the big stunt was him like dropping out of the, but even then you could tell it wasn't real. It was like him jumping into like the vent of that tall building, because that's where he was getting in to get to the rabbit's foot kind of thing. But even then, like that definitely wasn't actually happening.
Yeah, but Ghost Protocol was the first one where, like, Tom Cruise is doing this for real, and they really hyped it up. And I thought it was really well done. I thought that I like when they keep, even though it's serious and tense, there's those moments of levity, like when the glove stops working and stuff like that, and then when you have to swing, and then even
the swing and jump part to me is the hardest part.
Even though it's not the most dramatic, it's not the most action-packed one. Like say the airplanes is far more action-packed, of course. But as far as just a stunt, I think Ghost Protocol was my favorite one.
I would say outside of this one here, I would agree with you. I think the building one is the hardest, obviously, and the scariest one that he probably had to do. I'm not saying that like hanging outside of an airplane in, like, I think it was Fallout, was that Rogue Nation? I think it was Rogue Nation.
He was just like attached to the side of a plane when it took off, which basically seems to me like it was like a rehearsal for this movie, where you like
pretty much.
And then climb on top of it. And then, like, he did the Halo jump supposedly, or else like the one where he was like, on the, in, I think it was Fallout, when he was like
Fallout, the cavalry,
freight that's hanging below the helicopter, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's I mean, they're enjoyable stunts. I'm not as like as a lot of people are when he does.
I mean, to me, they're highlights, because you go and you watch something like Fast and the Furious, and you see what's the big crazy thing? And I was like, well, that's all fake. Like Tom's actually doing this shit, kind of thing. But yeah, I think this airplane one to me does top it. But I do think the Ghost Protocol building is right there behind it. So franchise as a whole for you, are you satisfied with how this whole franchise went? Did it stick the landing for you? Did it fall apart at the end for you? Like, how do you feel about the whole Mission Impossible franchise, assuming this is the very last one? How did you feel overall?
I think I would have liked, I think I don't know what. I would have liked a different ending to it. I think that this movie, I think, was enjoyable, but looking at it as like, oh, this is the final one, the wrapping up of it. And if you take out the retconning to make everything connect into one big arc, if you take out that they've done that to it, it doesn't really feel like, it all built to this. It just feels like it feels like part 2 of the last film, which is, of course, it was meant to. But honestly, like the last film, I enjoyed more than this one. So it's like I would have liked to have ended on, one of my favorite ones, when I ended on one that's good, but it's not one of my favorite ones. So I guess that's the only thing is I was so I would use the word. I don't want to use the word disappointed, because I was not disappointed. I just like, I would have liked to have gone out on the best.
I mean, a lot of people are like, it should have ended with Fallout. That isn't where I would have ended the franchise either. Like, that's not how you end the franchise. Like, it's one of, if not the best movie of the franchise. But the way that one ended, that's not how you end the franchise.
Right.
Like, him in the hospital bed laughing with the team. Like, no, like, they're clearly going to do more adventures. Just like, even with this one, the way it ended, it's like, do we buy that Ethan's done?
Well, that's just I thought, if Ethan dies, obviously it'd be the ending of him, and they might try to continue with other characters or whatever. But they obviously didn't do that. So then they have like everybody there again, and it's like, so they seem like they're acting like they're still a team. So I think we kind of assume that there's more adventures in the future for them.
This whole like, we're gonna nod each other and go our separate ways.
At no point in the movie does the character Ethan Hunt say, after this mission I'm done, or I need to go back and settle down. There's no indication from him that he's done with this. There's no indication that IMF's being shut down or anything. So at the end, when you see the team, you assume they're still a team.
If anything, IMF and Ethan should be getting more, because they were the only motherfuckers to pull this off. And they literally stopped the end of the fucking world. So if anything, IMF should be getting all the money. Ethan Hunt should be getting the fucking Star Wars parade with the medal ceremony and all this bullshit. Because without Ethan and Simon Pegg and all them, like, the world's gone. You know,
Well,
it's
no,
either
they can't publicly acknowledge them because of the whole thing disavowing them. So, but they could have a secret ceremony. He gets a medal, but it's like, oh, you don't get to keep this though. Just know that we've given you this medal.
It's like, fuck you guys, Kittredge. Kittredge's like, I'll keep it for you in my office. Fuck off, dude. I think the franchise, like I said, I really enjoyed, you know, pretty much all of them outside of the second one. And then the first one really shows its age. It's funny going back and watching the first one and then seeing where it's at now.
I loved the first one at the time, and a lot, because I remember like that scene in that
Talk about the restaurant,
quiet room or whatever. No, when he dropped down and he
yeah,
the Don Lowe's vault. I remember that scene being just awesome. And I really enjoyed the whole movie. But when you go back on it, it definitely does show its age, and it's definitely it's not the movie. It's not the series definitely evolved as it went. And like you said, kind of starting with 3, it kind of felt like 4, because like whereas 4 isn't the same movie as 5 and beyond from Fast and Furious, I feel this is the same way. 3 kind of rebooted it the way 4 did, but then it's 4 on. I think 4 through 8 feel like a cohesive.
Yeah, 3 is definitely the starting point, but still feels like its own story. Because like I said, it makes it seem like Tom's going off and with you know Julia, and that's the end of it. But then you're just like, oh no, he's back. I guess he just decided to say. But then you find like, oh, Julia's dead, but not really, you know, and all this kind of stuff. So he just threw himself back into his work, kind of thing. And then kind of like you said, like Fast and Furious, like the fourth one was them all coming back. It worked, and it felt very kind of its own thing. And then 5 was like, this is the way things are going now. It's not Fast and Furious. It's fucking Fast and Furious superhero cars, the movie. Right. And that's and you go, you know what? Get on the train or get the fuck off, because this is the way it is now. And that is a lot of that. 3 definitely was very much like, we're gonna fix everything. It's gonna be better. You're gonna enjoy this. You're gonna like it. 4, we're resetting everything to a point, and this is the way it is now. And it works for both franchises. Now, Mission Impossible, in my opinion, got off the fucking, you know, boat before it sank, unlike Fast and the Furious, who's still fucking going. Whereas Mission Impossible was like, look, we're going to end this right here. You may not like the last 2 as much, but at least it's ending. Like, whereas Fast and Furious is like, we're going to space, motherfuckers. Which, granted, like, what's the next step for Ethan Hunt? It would, I guess, be space. Sadly. He's going to be fighting fucking Predator and the Xenomorph in the next fucking film if they go back. But yeah, like for me, for the franchise, this is one, like I said, first film, I was like, okay. At that point, I wasn't like the hugest Tom Cruise fan. I mean, I was 11, so I really didn't have like, I didn't really watch many Tom Cruise movies outside of like Top Gun when I was like that age. But like, you know, 2 I watched, and like I think when I was younger, like 2 was like, that was definitely, I told this to Kimberly, I was like, 2 is very much the MTV generation Mission Impossible. It's not good, but it's the one I remember the most because it had like the Limp Bizkit song, and it was John Woo, and you know, it was very stylish and shit. But it is not a good movie.
It's so very 2000, yeah.
It's so corny in 2000s. And 3, like I said, 3 is one of my favorites, hands down, because J.J. Abrams, I thought, did a fantastic job with it, and Philip Seymour Hoffman is my favorite villain of the franchise. I loved Kerry Russell in it. I love Michelle Monaghan. So, and then once again, it added Simon Pegg into it, which made me love it even more. So 3's always been very special to me, and it's always been my favorite all the way up until like Fallout came out. So I feel like this franchise has always grown and gotten better and better and better all the way through. And like I said, I enjoyed how this one went out. And if they continued with it, I'd be like, okay, as long as it makes sense. Like kind of how I felt like when they announced John Wick 4. We're like, 3, see? Like, well, no, 3 ended to, like, we're going to get another one. But, like, 4 is like, okay, cool. It ends. Great. No, we're going to get John Wick 5. Okay, as long as it's good and as long as it makes sense, I'll be fine with it. And that's how I'll feel if we get another Mission Impossible, is I'm on board, but don't fuck it up. If it ends right now, I'm happy. I love this franchise. I will go back and rewatch this franchise many times over, even going back and rewatching it this past week. I was happy to go back and rewatch it. Now, granted, now, if I go back and rewatch it, probably will just skip the first 2 and probably just start on 3 and go from there. But I love Mission Impossible. I've always, especially since I actually became a movie, like a legitimate movie person. Tom Cruise has always been a favorite of mine since the 2000s, so I will always defend Tom Cruise as an actor. I love his movies when I actually grew of age to care about his films. And Mission Impossible, someone posted something. Of course, it was on Reddit, and you take what you want when it comes to fucking Reddit shit. But someone posted like, name 5 good movies from Tom Cruise that it does not include the Mission Impossible movies. I'm like, motherfucker, I can name 20. Like,
Yeah.
Don't disrespect Tom Cruise that way. First off, Last Motherfucking Samurai, Minority Report, Tropic Thunder, The Firm, Few Good Men. Shut the fuck up. Tom
Edge
Cruise
of
is
Tomorrow.
Come on. Edge of Tomorrow as well.
Hell, I love things like Cocktail. I love these movies.
It's like, don't act like he's not a good actor. Like you guys just want to hate on this man to hate on this man. And it's just like, just shut the fuck up. But what does make me sad about this ending is, are we ever gonna get Ving Rhames in anything again? Because literally, I feel like the only time I see Ving Rhames is a Mission Impossible movie.
Yeah, Ving Rhames, you don't see pop up. Like I saw him pop up in a couple of, like, essentially straight to DVD or VOD movies. There's one called The Tournament. It's actually kind of fun. It's kind of like a kind of Hunger Games kind of thing. But he's other than these movies, I don't know if he's just decided not to act anymore, or if he just doesn't get hired for stuff anymore. Now, clearly, I feel like from the last couple movies, I mean, he's never been kind of the physical side of these movies. He's never been putting people out running.
No, he's been the intellectual one, which is cool.
He's been kind of the guy in the chair, the kind of guy helping out,
Yeah.
So physical stuff isn't his deal. But I wonder if, like, it's because he's got to be what? He's got to be 70 years old now, something like that.
Let me look it up while you're.
But yeah, I like Ving Rhames, but I feel like he's kind of, I don't know about retired, but I feel like, he does these movies and doesn't do much else, but he doesn't really need to do.
He's only 4 years older than Tom.
Really? So he's
how
old now?
He's 66.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Because Tom's 62 and Tom's Tom. But I mean, but that's the thing is, like, I love Ving Rhames. He's always like just the coolest motherfucker. Like, literally, like him and like Michael Clark Duncan. That's another one. Like, those two, I feel like they're like hand in hand together. Like, those are two just guys that just, if you know that they are on screen, they're just the coolest motherfuckers there. Even if he's John Coffey in Green Mile, Michael Clark Duncan's still the coolest motherfucker. I'm so sad that he's no longer with us. Like, part of me got worried when I saw that Luther was sick in this. I was like, is Ving Rhames sick in real life? Like, or is this just a weird choice?
I wondered the same thing as well, but that's I was wondering if, like, maybe he's just not acting much anymore. But I mean, he has a movie came out this year called Uppercut. Now it's probably straight to video, where he plays like a boxing coach, an ex-champion or something like that. But he also
had like a little brief second moment where, like, is he really sick in real life, and that's why they're doing this? Because I hope that's not the case.
I mean, he could be. I don't know, but it looks like it looks like he's embraced a lot more voice acting too. He's the star, Wendell and Wild, the Garfield movie, Wild Robot. Because he has a great voice, so if nothing else, he's gonna keep doing that.
That's right. He wasn't Wild Robot. He was the fucking hawk or owl, something like that. Yeah, he was actually really good in that. So
Guardians Volume 2.
He was
It's been a while.
He's probably one of the voices.
Charlie 27 is what the credit is. I don't know what that is.
Is he the robot from like the other Guardians team, the one that has like Miley Cyrus and shit?
Oh, it could be. It could
and
be.
Like Stallone and everything.
It could be.
He's probably one of them. So, back on the Mission Impossible train, we have 8 movies. What is your definitive Mission Impossible ranking? 1 to 8, honestly, or 8 to 1, I guess. Like, we both know Mission Impossible 2 is the lowest for both of us, I'm assuming.
2 is the lowest. 1 is honestly second from the bottom, but there's a big gap.
Same here.
There's a big gap there.
Yeah. Yes. So I honestly feel like, for the most part, no, let's scratch. I was gonna say, I feel like we'd have the same ranking, but probably not. I know we both have 1 and 2 as
my problem is I don't even know my ranking, because it's like, I think Ghost Protocol has always been one of my favorites, and honestly, Dead Reckoning Part 1, the more I watch that, the more I really like that movie. Because it's got, like, for me, I think it's assembled the best cast with Haley Atwell and Pom Klementieff, and it still has Rebecca Ferguson and everybody. So I really like that as well, but I don't even know how to rank these things.
How about this? I'll do my ranking first. Give you some time to think.
Yeah, you do your straight on.
Okay, so I'll go 8-1. 8, obviously, like we both said, 8 is Mission Impossible 2 because it fucking sucks. Then it's Mission Impossible. Like so, the very first one. It feels very out of tune from the rest of the franchise. And it just really shows it doesn't even show its age. It feels like a 70s movie that was made in 96. It doesn't even feel 96.
I will agree with that. And I think that's largely because it was directed by Brian De Palma, who's very much like a 70s, early 80s kind of director.
You watch that and you're like, this was 96? Like, what else was out in 96? The Rock and like all the like this
Independence Day.
Independence Day is like, this feels so much older than everything else. But yeah, those are definitely my 2 lowest ones. Even though I like Mission Impossible, it's the weakest one of the good ones. Then for me, it's Ghost Protocol. Then it's Dead Reckoning Part 1. Then it's Final Reckoning at the number 4 spot. Then Mission Impossible 3. Then Rogue Nation, and then Fallout at the number 1 spot. That's my definitive ranking.
All right, my offhand ranking for the moment, which will constantly change, because honestly, I think there's like,
I feel like for me, 3 and Rogue Nation are like this.
Yeah,
they will always flip flop between 2 and 3 to me.
2 and 1 are at the bottom for me. I think next lowest for me might be Final Reckoning. But again, we're talking like 2's way down here. Big gap to 1. Then there's a gap to the rest. The rest are kind of all in a bunch.
The rest are all like clumped here. Yeah.
So I'm gonna go Final Reckoning, Rogue Nation 3. No, wait, Rogue Nation 3, Fallout, Ghost, Dead at the moment. At the moment, I really like Dead. But like I said,
so Dead's your number 1
for the moment.
You said Dead, Ghost Protocol, Fallout, 3, Rogue, Final, 1 and 2.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. So yeah, it's way different. I figured we'd be really close.
But again, let's see. You've also rewatched all these in the past week, and I am trying to.
You're going off memory
on some of these things, because
I was always
where I think of a scene and I'm like, wait, was that in Ghost Protocol or Rogue Nation or Fallout? Those 3 especially. Like I have trouble remembering what's in what movie.
See, before I rewatched these in the past week, it was like Fallout and 3 were like right here.
Mm-hmm.
And then just like you, Rogue Nation and Ghost Protocol were like one film because I couldn't decipher which was which.
Right.
And then it was like Dead Reckoning and then, Mission Impossible 1 and 2. And then like now that I like watched them, so I'm like, okay, so that's Ghost Protocol. Oh, that's Rogue Nation. Okay, here's because you have like the Jeremy Renaissance of Mission Impossible where he's in 2 movies. And that's kind of the thing. It's like those 2 are the Renners, and one Rogue Nation starts Rebecca Ferguson, but she's not in Ghost Protocol. So it's like there's how I can decipher the fucking 2. But yeah, any last thoughts on before we end this?
No, if this is the end of it, I mean it's been a great series. I kind of feel like even if they don't continue it right now, I think they will eventually. I think that it's an IP, it's a recognizable name that even if they don't continue it right now, at some point it will reboot with like, okay, here's the new IMF we've assembled, and then maybe you have Tom Cruise in like a mentor role or something. Especially if they wait 10 years to do it and he's even older, I could see them doing that. But I do not think this is the end of Mission Impossible, even if it is the end of this team as Mission Impossible.
Okay. I'm hoping it's the end, even though I don't want it to be, just because I feel like they continue with it, then it might become sour to people, and I don't want to have to constantly defend this movie that I love, or this franchise that I love, like I have to do with fucking Jurassic World now. We'll see what happens with that. But like I said, if they decide like in 10 years to continue on with a new group, and you have like either old Tom or old Simon, kind of being like the attachment to it, I wouldn't be upset with it. Like kind of like doing like a not like a Creed situation where it's like, oh, it's the son of blah, blah. Don't do that shit. But it's just more or less like, okay, so it is in the same world, but it's not connected, but you could connect it because of this linchpin here kind of thing.
Like I could see Tom being the one whose voice is on those things that your mission should choose to accept it. I could see him being like that guy in charge of the team. But so I have no problem with them if they do start it up again with a newly assembled team, with or without some of the existing members, as long as it's not like, like here's the young, cool, hip teams. Like, let's keep the same tone.
What's funny is they asked Tom if they were going to continue it on without him, who would he want to take over? And you know who he said?
No.
Glenn Powell. He goes, if I was going to leave it to somebody young to take over, he goes, it'd be Glenn Powell. And I'd be like, sign us up, baby.
I'm here for it. Yeah.
Sign us the fuck up for Glenn Powell.
You want to put Glenn Powell in there? Have Katie O'Brien join the team. Get
some more Zoe Deutsch. We'll bring them all in. But
you know who else I think would be great at this? Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Yes. Like, motherfuckers, you didn't give me Bond, so I'm gonna fucking do Mission Impossible, assholes. Hell yeah. I'd be down for that. And then you have Brian Tyree Henry as his Bing Rames.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
So that way we get the Bullet Train connection. But anyway, we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you guys did, go and hit that like, share, and subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos pop up in the movie Crusaders. Of course, you can follow us on all those social media outlets you see below. What were your thoughts on Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning? Did you like it, dislike it? Let us know in the comments. What were your thoughts on Mission Impossible, the whole franchise as a whole? What was your favorite film? What was your least favorite? If it's not 2, there's something wrong with you. But let us know. Coming up next, we're going to be doing a massive review dump of pretty much everything that we've seen in May for the most part so far. So we've got
Thunderbolts and Mission Impossible obviously have their own videos, but this is gonna be like basically everything else we've watched in May. So
exactly. So Final Destination, Bloodlines, Lilo and Stitch are probably the 2 big names in there. And there's one that we probably didn't expect to be as great as it is. That is fucking amazing, and it's not even on the title card. So we're gonna keep it like a surprise for you because a lot of people probably don't even know this movie exists. And we're going to praise the shit out of it when we get to it. But check out that. The next big movie, I know this upcoming week, we've got Karate Kid Legends. I don't know if that's going to get its own review. It might be another massive review dump. And I think the week after that, I know you're already pulling it up, so I'm just waiting on you.
Yeah, this coming week, Bring Her Back, which I'm actually going to talk about in the one because I've already seen it. Karate Kid Legends and Phoenician Scheme, which is Wes Anderson. Week after that is when you get Ballerina, Life of Chuck, and some other smaller movies. But so Ballerina is probably the next big one we'll have a review of.
Oh, we'll definitely talk about Ballerina. Yeah. Absolutely. So we'll be back in a couple weeks to talk about that and potentially other films, depending on how many we've seen between now and then. But check out our massive review dump. There's going to be at least 10 to 15 movies we're going to be talking about on that review. So check that out. But until next time, we are the Movie Crusaders. I'm Sean Wastrup. That is Brian Michaels. And until next time, in case we don't see you, go watch some movies and go have some fun.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.